For more than a century, Canada's closest partner has been the United States. The two nations shared trade, culture, and borders that felt almost invisible. But today, that relationship is unraveling. What began as frustration has hardened into a movement, and Canada is no longer waiting for Washington to change course. New trade routes are opening overseas. American products are being left on shelves, and Canadian tourism is turning away from U.S. cities. A quiet separation is underway, one that could reshape North America itself. The question now is how far Canada is willing to go and how much America stands to lose. Let's dig in. Over the past 2 days, the headlines have told a story that signals a turning point in North American politics and economics. Canada has agreed to scale back certain retaliatory tariffs against the United States, tariffs that were originally tied to the framework of the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement. At first glance, it might look like a concession, but those who look closer see something entirely different. This is not a gesture of weakness. It is a calculated move designed to reinforce Canada's position of strength while its leaders work behind the scenes to redirect the country's future. Prime Minister Mark Carney is not standing still. Even as he negotiates with Washington, he has deployed his industry minister and foreign minister across the globe. Their mission is to forge new partnerships, expand economic horizons, and secure allies who can help Canada reduce its dependence on its southern neighbor. In the coming week, Carney himself will be in Germany holding meetings with world leaders who are eager to strengthen ties with Ottawa. The Canadian strategy is clear: diversify trade, reshape alliances, and build an economy that no longer relies on Washington's goodwill. What makes this shift so striking is the level of unity it has inspired across Canada's political spectrum. From the left-leaning New Democratic Party in British Columbia to conservative leaders in Ontario and even Carney's own Liberal government, there is a rare sense of alignment. British Columbia's Premier David Aye summed up the mood when he warned that unfair U.S. tariffs on softwood, lumber, and aluminum had inflicted real harm on Canadian families. His message was not only about defending provincial interests, but about moving toward markets that value Canadian products. The sentiment echoed across the provinces. The time has come to grow the economy by looking outward, not downward. Carney himself has been unambiguous in his message. He has warned the public not to mistake Canada's willingness to remove certain tariffs as a sign of submission. The truth, he insists, is that Canada is actively pursuing deals with other nations while treating the United States as one trading partner among many rather than the center of its economic universe. Washington may be impossible to ignore given geography, but Canada's future will not be tethered to its neighbors' unpredictability. In a recent statement, Carney laid out a sweeping vision for the path ahead. He pledged new policies designed to shield Canadian industries from American pressure, ranging from agriculture to automobiles. The government will soon announce a comprehensive industrial strategy aimed at securing jobs, strengthening competitiveness, and expanding exports. Investments will target national projects that can transform infrastructure, defense, and energy, while simultaneously creating new opportunities for Canadian workers. The goal is nothing short of remaking the nation's economy into one of the strongest in the G7, rooted in resilience rather than dependence. Part of this plan involves a bold transformation in housing and construction. Carney has promised to double the pace of home building, a move designed not only to address Canada's housing crisis, but also to create an entirely new industry that can support long-term economic growth. In parallel, Canada is working to develop a defense sector capable of supporting both its sovereignty and its alliances abroad. The vision is ambitious, but it reflects a recognition that the old era of integration with the United States has come to an end. For decades, the Canadian and American economies grew steadily more intertwined. From the free trade agreements of the 1980s through the later evolution of NAFTA and COSMA, the two countries built a relationship that was often presented as inseparable. That deep integration once looked like a strength, But today, it feels more like a vulnerability. Washington's policies, its protectionist turn, and its growing political instability have revealed the risks of relying too heavily on one partner. Carney's message is blunt. The age of economic dependency is over, and adaptation is no longer optional. In the weeks ahead, Canada will be seeking new partnerships across Europe, Asia, and beyond. One of the most important steps will come in Germany, where Carney will meet Chancellor Friedrich Merz and his cabinet. The agenda is wide-ranging, covering critical minerals, renewable energy, defense cooperation, and industrial ties with ministers of natural resources, defense, and industry traveling alongside him. The Canadian delegation is making it clear that these talks are about more than symbolic gestures. They are about constructing a new framework of cooperation that can endure regardless of shifting governments or volatile trade climates. Germany is not the only focus. Canada has already entered into defense agreements with European partners while simultaneously reaching out to Finland, Sweden, and others eager to deepen their ties. Meanwhile, global power centers are realigning in ways that leave the United States increasingly isolated. China has been strengthening its connections with Brazil. India is engaging with Beijing, and many nations are hedging their bets in a world where Washington no longer commands unquestioned loyalty. Canada, rather than waiting for the fallout, is positioning itself to thrive in this new environment. Carney's own words reflect both determination and pragmatism. He has emphasized the importance of protecting strategic sectors like steel, aluminum, autos, and lumber, all of which have been caught in the crossfire of U.S. trade disputes. At the same time, he acknowledges that the CUSMA agreement will face upcoming reviews and potential changes. Canada is preparing to navigate these shifts with precision while continuing to build bridges elsewhere. In one of his most striking public appearances, Carney turned to a familiar Canadian pastime to illustrate his strategy: hockey. He explained that in the early stages of a tough game, sometimes players go into the corners with elbows raised to send a message, and at times even drop the gloves to show they will not be intimidated. That phase, he suggested, has already taken place. Canada delivered its warning shots and stood its ground against American tariffs. But now, he argued, the game has entered another stage. This is the period when skill, strategy, and focus on scoring goals matter most. Canada, in his view, is ready to shift from defense to offense, handling the United States with care while building new plays with international partners. That analogy resonates because it speaks to a broader truth about Canada's current position. The fight has already been joined, the message has already been sent, and the world has taken notice. What comes next will determine not only Canada's economic trajectory, but also the balance of power in global trade. The stakes are high, and the decisions being made now will shape the country's future for generations. As Canada moves forward, it is making clear that its strength comes not from clinging to old alliances, but from forging new ones. This is a moment of reinvention, a chance to transform vulnerabilities into opportunities and dependency into sovereignty. The United States may still loom large across the border, but its ability to dictate the terms of Canada's future is fading across industries, across provinces, and across political lines. There is a determination to take control of what comes next. And so, while Washington continues to posture and bluster, Ottawa is building. While American leaders lean on rhetoric, Canadian leaders are drawing up blueprints for new partnerships and industries that can withstand the storms of global politics. The signals are unmistakable. The days of one-sided reliance are over. A new chapter is being written, one where Canada holds its ground and makes its own path. And then, meanwhile, Canada's Industry Minister Melanie Joly was moving across Northern Europe to deepen ties that go well beyond symbolic diplomacy. Her recent trip to Finland and Sweden was not only about handshakes and photographs, but about building new foundations in both defense and economics cooperation. With both nations freshly integrated into NATO, the timing of these discussions could not be more significant. Joly emphasized that Canada's objective is to expand its economic reach into the European Union, with Finland and Sweden serving as natural partners. She reminded audiences that Canada had been the very first country to ratify their NATO membership, a decision rooted not only in defense strategy, but also in recognition of shared Arctic interests and long-standing economic ties. During her meetings, Joly sat down with Sweden's Prime Minister, its Deputy Prime Minister, its Minister of Defense, and top economic leaders. She also engaged directly with major companies such as SAB, AstraZeneca, ABB, and Ericsson, firms that already have strong footprints in Canada and whose partnerships could be expanded in the years ahead. The message from Stockholm was clear. Opportunities for collaboration in technology, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, and defense are immense, and Canada intends to seize them. The trip then moved to Finland, where Joly met with the Prime Minister, the Ministers of Defense, Economy, and Foreign Affairs, along with senior executives from Nokia and other leading companies. One of the most striking developments discussed was the purchase of the Helsinki shipyard by Quebec's Davy Shipyard, marking the first time in modern Canadian history that a domestic shipbuilder has acquired a foreign facility. This acquisition opens the door to building and exporting advanced icebreakers, a vital capability given the shifting geopolitical dynamics in the Arctic. The deal was signed alongside the trilateral ice pact between Canada, Finland, and the United States. But Ottawa's leaders made clear that they see far greater potential in bilateral collaboration with Finland. Joly explained that the broader strategy is economic diplomacy. Canada's ambition, she said, is to create the strongest economy in the G7, and that goal will be pursued by cultivating relationships with nations that can offer real opportunities in defense, technology, and trade. The timing of this mission was deliberate, coming as Ottawa reassesses its dependence on American military equipment. The issue of the F-35 fighter jet was raised again, with Joly signaling that Canada cannot continue to frame its defense needs solely around U.S. designs. Though Canada had once committed to purchasing the F-35, she revealed that the government is reconsidering those plans from the perspective of sovereignty and security. The underlying argument was sharp. If relying too heavily on American aircraft makes the country less safe, then Ottawa must look elsewhere for options. The challenge, of course, lies in the reality that alternatives are limited. Nations producing planes of the same caliber as the F-35 are few, and transitioning away from that platform is not a simple decision. Yet Canada appears determined to use the prospect of canceling the deal as leverage in its broader negotiations with Washington. Meetings with Sarin Sweden and conversations with Lockheed Martin are being weighed carefully. Ottawa intends to play both sides, maintaining flexibility while signaling clearly that its defense procurement will no longer be dictated by the United States. Back home, the ripple effects of American tariffs are hitting hard, especially in Ontario. Premier Doug Ford, a conservative leader, made his position plain in a recent address. He described the damage being done to Ontario's economy by Trump's policies, calling the tariffs a direct assault on families, workers, and businesses. Standing in Sia at the Blue Water Bridge, the second busiest commercial border crossing in the country, Ford described the uncertainty spreading across industries. He promised that his government would push forward with a plan to protect the province and contribute to building a more resilient national economy. Ford's comments reflect a growing consensus across political lines. Canadians no longer believe that Washington can be trusted to act in good faith. Recent polling underscores the sentiment. Nearly 80% of Canadians say that even if a deal was struck with Trump, he would never uphold it. That level of skepticism strips away the rationale for endless negotiations and reinforces the push for Canada to look outward rather than southward. The Canadian government has taken that skepticism and turned it into a policy of redirection, channeling energy into alliances that offer stability rather than volatility. A recent Politico report described this effort as Canada courting Arctic allies to counter Russia. The piece highlighted how Ottawa is building defense partnerships with Nordic nations, a move that simultaneously strengthens Canada's northern posture while lessening its reliance on American support. In this framework, Carney emerges not only as a domestic leader, but as an international statesman, presenting Canada as a country capable of forging coalitions in regions where American influence is declining. The results of these strategies are already being felt in unexpected areas. Tourism in the United States has been one of the first industries to experience the fallout from Canada's growing boycott. Nowhere is the impact more visible than in Las Vegas, where Canadian visitors once played a central role in sustaining the city's economy. Travel data shows that Canadian tourism to the United States is down nearly 40%, a collapse that could cost tens of billions of dollars in the coming years. For border towns and tourist destinations across America, the absence of Canadian travelers is no longer theoretical. It is being felt in empty hotel rooms and struggling businesses. Meanwhile, within Canada, the boycott of American goods is gaining strength. A report from the CBC detailed how Canadians are becoming far more vigilant about what they buy, paying close attention to labels. To ensure that products are not tied to U.S. manufacturers, the cultural shift is striking. Shoppers increasingly say they feel a duty to support domestic producers, not only out of nationalism, but because buying Canadian helps stabilize prices, fight inflation, and secure jobs. Every dollar spent at home is being framed as both an act of defiance and an act of patriotism. The difference in leadership styles could not be starker. While Donald Trump delivers erratic statements about everything from wind turbines to global trade, Canada's leaders are presenting themselves as stable, measured, and committed to multilateral solutions. Ottawa is aligning with nations that still believe in cooperation in contrast to Washington's retreat into unilateralism. The contrast plays well on the world stage. Leaders in Europe and Asia see Canada as a reliable partner, one that can fill gaps left by American unpredictability. What is perhaps most telling is how ordinary Canadians are responding. For many, the boycott of American products and tourism is no longer seen as a temporary measure. Interviews and surveys suggest that a growing number of people intend to make it permanent, a lifetime stance that rejects U.S. goods and services altogether. That mindset is not born of passing anger, but of a deeper recognition that the old trust has been broken. Once faith in a partner is lost, it is not easily restored. What does this shift mean for the future of North America? Could Canada's breakaway from Washington inspire other nations to follow? Or will the United States find a way to pull its neighbor back into the fold? And if the divide deepens, what happens to the generations of cultural and economic ties that once seemed unshakable? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our deep dives into the turning points shaping the